Welcome to Sunrise Arcade. This is Callum, derailing the Tuesday review already.
See, this is what happens when you invite Callum on your show.
Welcome to the Tuesday review. I'm Nathan.
I'm James.
I'm Callum.
And I'm Callum.
Yeah, and we're joined by
Callum with a C.
We got Callum and then Callum with the C, which is Callum. Spelled
Callum's the
differently.
OG. I'm the special guest.
Yeah. Very special guest.
Tonight we're talking about Toy Story 4.
Toy Story 4.
First off, we'll just do a quick correction from last week's episode where we talked about
CD Projekt Red.
CD Projekt Red, who are
And
making
the-
Cyberpunk
yeah.
2077, the game.
So
and they
I
were
was saying
partnering.
how, quote-unquote, Artel Saurian was behind it, but we were actually talking about the same person.
Yeah, so-
my simple mind thought Artel Saurian was a person.
Yeah,
'cause I thought R was the first initial.
Yeah.
But it's Mike Pondsmith.
Mike Pondsmith, the creator of the Cyberpunk 2020 tabletop pen and paper RPG, has teamed up with CD Projekt
Yeah.
Red to help with the video game Cyberpunk 2077. And we were talking about how it was great that he seems to be really involved with that.
Yeah.
And then we're saying, well, who owns the rights? He must own the rights. And Callum was like, well, this Artel Saurian guy has the
Yeah,
rights.
it's the company name.
But that's Mike Pondsmith, the creator of Cyberpunk, owns
Artel
that's his
Saurian.
Artel Saurian, which is his
Yeah.
publishing company.
Yeah.
So in the context, it still makes sense sort of when you listen to it, but
Yeah.
we like Callum was
Got
like
my
thought it was
wires
a guy. Yeah.
crossed, yeah.
I was like, are you sure you're not thinking of Mike Pondsmith?
Yeah.
And you're like, no, he was there. The guy was there.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, that
It's like he was
that-
there.
he was
His
there,
name is
but-
Mike.
Yeah, his name is Mike, and he owns Artel Saurian, which is
Yeah.
his publishing company.
Which is good news.
But that means that he owns the publishing company who owns
Yeah.
the rights.
he can do whatever he wants.
So hopefully we do see that re-release that we were talking about last week.
Update for listeners, in the future, we are going to be getting a set of the source materials because I've decided on the website you can buy a whole bundle where you get all the important books
Oh, really?
for $100.
Really?
American, so a little bit
That's
more.
still not bad.
But, I think you save something like $20. So I'm thinking about, I might actually buy that, and then we can actually see about how a game would go for the podcast.
Definitely. I would be down for playing
So
that.
yeah, so you get like the source book, you get the Night City book, you get like the weapon books.
Do you get the Chrome books?
Yes, you do.
Ooh.
So that's why I'm like, it's like a bundle. So I'm like, you might see that in the future from us.
Yes. Keep an ear out for that. Also, last week we were talking about Men in Black International. And since then, because it's not doing very well, surprise, surprise, but since then, there's, been articles about how the troubled production behind the scenes and how apparently the original script was, much more, like serious and much more dealing with deeper issues, and which I guess makes sense because that's how they got all the actors attached. And of course, there was all the news that the director was fighting with the producer and they didn't see eye to eye, and it's that kind of too many cooks sort of situation, which we kind of knew from what we were talking about with the failings of Men in Black International last week. It's like that's how it always happens. It starts off interesting, but it gets all the meat and all the good stuff gets sucked out, and all the soul gets sucked out. But yeah, I mean, that's disappointing. But, who knows? They might just be trying to cover their tracks with if the movie did well, we wouldn't be hearing about any of this,
That's usually what it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's always a reason why it sucks.
Yeah. So let's move on to Toy Story 4.
Which...
The sequel that you didn't think you needed.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it.
I mean, it took him 10 years.
Yeah, well, I guess that's the thing with Pixar. It's like... the quality... the quality is going to be good. Or at least there's a standard.
Yeah, what was the time length between Incredibles 1 and Incredibles 2?
Oh, like 14 years? I can't
So they
remember.
don't do
It's
these.
ages.
They don't do the sequels in a hurry.
No, yeah. Especially with Incredibles, Brad Bird was like, I'm only going to do it if the script is good. And so I think Toy Story, because there was such a huge gap between 2 and 3, and then there's such a huge gap between 3 and 4, and we'll see what happens in the future. So, yeah, it's definitely, I think they want
old men for the next one,
Yeah.
basically.
Can I just say, it's pretty crazy to think that Toy Story 2 came out in 1999.
I know. It's crazy. But it's like the power... it's like a Star Wars kind of thing. The power of Toy Story is so like
Transcends generations.
it's also crazy because kids born after Toy Story 3 are now sort of old enough to get into Toy Story 4, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
It's been that long.
That decade-long gap between
Yeah.
movies.
So we'll start off with a short non-spoiler section just to give our sort of impressions. So, like Alan was sort of saying before, Toy Story 3, I think, ended the Toy Story trilogy or the series so well and was, you know, such a touching and perfect end to the characters and story that this one felt a little unnecessary. But because it's Pixar, it's like, well, I'm sure it'll be fine. But I think Toy Story 4 is a really good movie.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
good.
really good.
And it also feels somewhat standalone.
It does. Yeah, it's just like another adventure after.
Yeah, so it's like you have the original trilogy, which I guess feel more connected,
Yeah.
and then you have Toy Story 4, and I mean it's sort of standalone, but it works.
Yeah. Yeah, this like whereas 3 felt like an ending, 4 is just like, and here's another adventure, but not in any way that feels like when it was announced, it was like, oh, you know, it's just money at this point.
This movie doesn't feel like you're missing anything by not having seen the originals recently.
So it's sort of that, but also it doesn't feel like it's unnecessarily dragging out the series
Yeah.
just for
No, it's not-
economic purposes.
There's no sequel bait. There's no sort of thing like this. There's not a
Yeah.
thing there saying you need to come back for the next one next year.
It's kind of the unnecessary movie that's good.
yeah.
So it's kind of like, well, I guess it's
we'll
okay.
take it.
Yeah, it's like, we'll take it, you know.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's kind of a weird place
It
to be.
does. I mean, we'll talk about this at more length in the spoilers, but it introduces certain characters that I would be pretty happy if they had a spin-off movie. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
there's certain characters I'd just like to see more of.
We'll talk about in the spoiler section how they could sort of go about that. But yeah, Toy Story. So Toy Story 3 ended with Andy was now college.
Spoiler alert.
Oh, come on, man.
Spoiler
If you haven't
alert
watched
for
it by
10
now,
years.
too
We just
bad.
talked about 3 came out almost 10 years ago. So
10 years to watch this movie.
Yeah,
again.
the spoiler alerts for the 1995 Toy Story 1.
Yeah, a spoiler alert for a 25-year-old franchise. But yeah, 3 ended the sort of trilogy so well where Andy, the owner of the toys, was now grown up and going away to college, and he gave away his toys to a little girl named Bonnie. And it was kind of like that, not passing the torch, but, you know, giving the toys someone who
Who will
could love-
appreciate them.
Exactly.
The whole
yeah.
thing about the toys is they feel like they have to be needed by someone.
they're the reason they're alive, or the reason their job in life is to
It's to
be
come
played
with
with.
children and
Yeah.
play with children and
Yeah.
get them through life.
Exactly. So for Andy not to need them anymore, you know, that was sad, but it was like, but
toys
there's
give it a
another
new purpose now.
Exactly. Yeah. So that movie and ended it so perfectly and brought a tear to many a 22-year-old,
Something, yeah.
whatever, eye.
A 20-something.
20-something-year-old eye. And now this is like, it's set not long after 3, so Bonnie is still the owner and still a small child, but she's now starting kindergarten and she's feeling, you know, like all kids starting school, you know,
A bit nervous,
a bit nervous. She doesn't have any friends yet. And so she makes a new toy out of a old spork and some
Yeah.
pipe cleaners called Forky. And he comes alive, but he doesn't realize he's a toy.
He thinks he's trash.
He thinks he's trash because he's an old spork and some bits and pieces. And so he keeps trying to commit suicide by jumping in the trash. But it's up to the toys
Because he's the most important toy at this point as well.
to Bonnie, yes.
To Bonnie. So
It's
their
her-
imperative is to keep this toy alive.
Exactly. So Woody and the gang, because their job is to, you know, keep Bonnie happy and safe, they have to keep Forky around, introduce him to their family, and on this adventure they go on, they run into an old friend, which I think's been given away in the trailers, but I won't say any more. And yeah, it's more like a standalone adventure.
Yeah, so the crux of the story is essentially the toys have to work together to save Forky.
Yeah.
And in doing so, other toys from maybe
The
previous
past,
films
yeah.
are revealed, and it's just it's a connected movie about forming connections with each other.
Yeah.
But
And I mean, all the Toy Story movies have similar themes, and you can definitely see similarities to previous films, but not in any boring kind of repetitive way.
I feel like this one's more existential.
Definitely. This movie, see, like, this is definitely a kid's movie, but there are so many dark kind of moments in...
Way darker than I thought.
And there, like, it's definitely... I think Pixar appreciates that most of the people who grew up with the originals are now in their 20s or even older. So I think that definitely factors into it. Even though all Pixar movies in general have that adult-oriented aspect to them, I think Toy Story, they know for a fact, like they're very self-aware.
The demographic, they know the demographics.
They know kids will be, kids born after Toy Story 3. Yeah, that's their audience as well. But they also know there's a bunch of guys like us going in, shoving us, shouting at each other, like, making inappropriate jokes before the movie starts, and then crying when Woody, So, like, they definitely know that, and the movie reflects that and how dark and existential it gets at times.
Because there's nothing says millennial like existential dread.
Yeah.
they do know the demographics.
It fits so well. But yeah, so... Like, generally, we all really liked it. The animation's really good.
Oh, the animation is amazing.
As soon as the movie started, I leaned over to Callum and I was like, the graphics.
Yeah.
Like, there was, the leap from Toy Story 1 to 2 is noticeable, but, small. And then 2 to 3 was huge. It was like, wow.
Yeah.
And 3 to 4, even though it feels... of a shorter time. It's so long ago.
But it's still a big jump.
Yeah, technology is always moving so quickly. And so now
For me personally, sometimes it almost ventured into Uncanny Valley.
Like
a couple of times with the toys and the weather effects.
The opening scene...
sit right, man.
The opening scene, which takes place like during a rainstorm, is so photorealistic that if you took the toys out, you would say that's a real... set, like that's an actual location that they shot.
Pixar can do this and make a whole movie of just CG, and you won't hear us complaining. I guarantee you won't really hear us complain too much about the CG in this film. Yet you've got companies like Marvel who spend billions on a film, and then like we complain, they'll have like Toy Story 1 graphics as CG.
I would like to see a cut of Toy Story 4 with the toys removed to see if it looks like CGI. Yeah. Because the environments and the materials and the textures all look like there's no trick, like it looks real.
I'm going to mention on that point Zootopia. That was a Disney Pixar film, correct?
Yes.
I believe so.
Yes.
And that...
Or was that just Disney Studios?
I believe it was Pixar. In that scene, and it's been a few years since that movie came out.
Yeah.
In that movie, there was a certain scene where you literally had just a bridge and a creek.
Yeah.
No animals, nothing.
Yeah.
And I could not distinguish that from like a real setting.
But that's the thing with Pixar. It's like every time a movie comes out, they're always at the top of the...
That was just a Disney movie.
That was Disney Animation Studios.
But that scene itself, like you said, you take out the thing that would make it unrealistic.
Yeah.
Like the toys, or in this case, the animals.
Yeah.
It looked stunning. So with Pixar at the helm, I'd imagine.
Yeah. Same dealio.
Yeah.
I think that's just where we're at now.
Yeah, exactly.
With the exception of maybe Life of Pets 2, which was...
But that's more stylized.
Yeah, and it just wasn't as good.
Well, I don't know why you guys bother with that.
The first one was fine. I enjoyed the first one. But no, my point is, I think that's just where we're at now.
Yeah.
We've got a level where, from companies who specialize in this type of film...
Also, I'm not saying that the movie can't be like stylized. Like, like if a movie looks cartoonish, that's fine. Like I'm even more for that than trying to make it look super realistic. But just in the case of Toy Story 4, it's just so realistic.
And it's beautiful.
Yeah, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, the color, the cinematography in this film is like next level. Like, I really appreciated the dark scenes, like because the colors still popped in the dark. Yeah. The neon lighting, all done really, really well.
So, oh no, go on.
I was just gonna say overall, I really liked it.
Yeah.
I would recommend it.
Yeah, I mean, there's like it's like we were saying before. There's that kind of weird balancing act of Toy Story 3 was the perfect ending. We don't really need this film. There was those couple of Toy Story shorts that came out that I thought were really good, and I thought they should just continue those. But the fact that this film is really good and it does have its own kind of self-contained adventure, and it does deal with interesting themes. Like, it's definitely worth it. Like, it's definitely a worthwhile addition to the franchise.
Do you reckon it would have been better if it was Toy Story subtitle as opposed to Toy Story 4? Instead of a numbered entry, it could be Toy Story.
Yeah, like a spin-off, a Toy Story story.
Yeah, no, like this, like it's like not one of the main movies, like a numbered film, but it's like a little tale set in the Toy Story. Maybe not even canon. It might be like an optional.
That's interesting.
Optional story.
I mean, the only thing I see wrong with that is that it does deal with the sort of the girl who owns the toys. It does deal with a developmental step for her.
It'd be like non-canon. You know what I mean? Like, it'd be just a nice story about what came after, potentially, which happens in some. They do that with anime sometimes. They'll have like a movie that's unconnected but it has the same characters.
Here's the main timeline, and then here's another adventure that happened. Subtitle. I don't know, the naming convention, but it's definitely, like, I was a little wary at first, but it paid off, you know?
I think once the movie gets going, it's the beginning retreads a few things, and then but once sort of it gets going in a certain direction, it clicks and
momentum.
The start is just kind of like setting things up, and then there's definitely it gets into gear, and then it.
I really liked it. Anyone have anything to say before we move into spoilers?
Callum,
any last thoughts?
No, I think everything's been said already. It was a pretty good movie. Like I said, not necessarily a movie that had to happen, but I'm glad it did because we enjoyed it.
The only other thing I won't spoil it, but some of the toys don't get a lot to do, which isn't a bad thing in terms of the overall development of how the plot plays out. But it would be nice to sort of involve them a bit more.
A couple of the actors are dead.
No, not the dead actors ones. The other characters.
It's good that they still included the toys, though, with limited lines.
Well, they used archival, sound footage, voice footage of those. But there are some like toys from the original with the voice actors still alive and still actively in the movie, who don't really get to do a whole heap. But as the movie plays out, that's kind of understandable, but also it would be nice to sort of include them more here and there. And all the new characters are really good. Forky, I think, at first I was like, but by the end of it, it's like really funny.
See, Forky sets down some ground rules about, like, I feel like that's like heavy world building, like. Now we know that the concept of a toy is whatever you attach quickly to.
If you want to get into that, we'll be here all night because
I just thought it was interesting to see that a toy is not necessarily just made in a factory. So all kinds of crazy inventions you could make.
Some of the cars and stuff don't have eyes.
Exactly. See, because they
were built by a toy.
Yeah. See, because there's no set rules. Is it the child's love that brings it to life, or
otherwise? Because there's a lot of things
there's abandoned toys that seem to still be alive.
Yeah, okay.
So there's no real. Yeah, it's very.
And the word toy is very, used around the world. So,
they play it fast and loose with how what constitutes a toy to come to life. But Forky's really funny. Tony Hale, who played Buster Bluth in Arrested Development, plays Forky, and he's hilarious. And Forky's a cool, weird character with he's very limited in what he can do, but that's why the animation is so funny because of how they kind of have him move around. And a lot of the other new characters are really great.
I mean, there was one scene I liked with Forky, the non-spoiler scene, and there's a group activity, and I don't know what they were sort of putting their hands in a circle.
Oh, that was so
I don't know why. I don't know if it's meant to be that funny.
No,
we all laughed.
His little pipe cleaner hand just goes on top.
It's slapsticky kind of awkward comedy.
Awkwardly, pipe cleaner hand comes on top.
Anyway, real good.
Yeah, that was really good.
Moving into spoilers.
Yes, spoiler warning. If you haven't seen Toy Story 4, we're doing full spoilers for Toy Story 4. Spoiler warning, you've been warned.
Well, the first thing I'd say in our spoiler section is that I loved the road trip angle.
Yeah.
I thought it worked really well.
I guess it's got similarities to, the end of Toy Story 1 when the moving truck, which I guess is more of a climactic action scene than an actual plot, device. And then there's the adventure when they go to save Woody in the second movie.
There's an airport issue in that second movie, isn't there?
Yeah, when they're on the baggage.
Yeah, the baggage carousel. And pretty sure, are they on the runway at one point or not?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, there's some weird things.
But yeah, this one's definitely more like they're going from town to town and they get lost on the road. But then once they get to that small town with the antique store,
it's all set in that town.
Yeah. So I guess should we say the actual whole plot?
Can I just say real quick
for context
while I'm thinking of it?
Yeah.
One thing I really think this movie missed was they really could have capitalized on Old Town Road by a Lil Nas. By having Woody. That could be like Woody's theme song.
No, it could not.
You'll find that on YouTube anyway. You just find Woody.
like when Woody has to do something heroic, it's like.
This is why Pixar makes good films, because they don't do dumb shit like that. And then you watch DreamWorks. Or like the normal Disney anime, and they just put shitty pop songs over scenes. It's like, ugh. But yeah, so
a general plot, I guess, synopsis.
Yeah.
So they go on a road trip.
So Bonnie makes Forky, brings Forky home. Forky wants to throw himself in the trash because he doesn't believe he's a toy.
So they're trying to keep Forky alive.
Yeah, Woody and the gang are trying to keep Bonnie happy by keeping Forky out of the trash, and because she's now really attached to him, and she sees him as her kind of safety
spork.
Yeah, safety spork. That's a bit pointy for her to sleep with, but she still does. And then her and her parents get in like an RV and are going on a road trip, and so she takes all her toys, including Forky. But Forky jumps out onto the road, and Woody's like, it's important that we keep Bonnie happy. It's important that we keep Forky as a toy. So he jumps out after him. And says to the other toys, like, and Buzz and Jesse and the others, I'll meet you in the next town. He gets Forky, convinces him that he is a toy and that Bonnie needs him, and that Bonnie is trash. Bonnie,
yeah. So Woody kind of reframes the whole relationship angle by suggesting to Forky that don't look at yourself as a toy, look at you as Bonnie's trash.
Yeah, the way you feel about trash,
that's why Bonnie feels about you. And so then he understands what Woody's trying to say.
Yeah, and so they go to... Oh, we should also say the movie opens with a rainstorm where RC, the remote control car, is lost in the rain, and Woody and the toys have to rescue him.
Yeah.
And then Bo Peep, who was missing from the third movie, and you don't know what happened, it's like a flashback scene, and she gets sold to this guy for another little girl. And so she willingly leaves because Molly's now grown, like, too old for her, and Woody decides to stay behind because he's like, the toys need me here. And then flash forward, Forky, they're with Bonnie now. They go on the road trip. Woody finds Forky. They go on down to find Bonnie and the rest of the toys in the town. And they go past an old antique store, and Woody sees Bo Peep's lamp in the window, and's like, I got to stop here.
And so basically the story, because we don't want to reveal. I mean, I know we're doing spoilers.
Well, spoilers just for the context, because we're going to do a lot of discussion around what happens, and I don't want to have to bring up every character.
So essentially, Woody sees Bo Peep might be in this antique store. He, with the help of Forky, he goes into the antique store. They find out Bo Peep is there, but they also have to essentially rescue Bo. No, actually, they see the lamp. Sorry, they see the lamp.
They see the lamp. They go in the antique store. She was there. She's no longer there. They find an old doll toy from the 50s called Gabby.
Yeah, that's it.
Which is a good name. And her voice box is broken, her pull string voice box, and she thinks she has no value as a toy. She can't help a kid unless she has that voice box fixed. So she's trying to steal Woody's voice box by ripping it out of his back.
Because it's the same technology.
Yeah, and she's got these creepy ventriloquist dummy henchmen, which is so cool and so creepy.
And they're all named Vincent.
Was it Benson? I thought you said
Vincent. One was Benson, that's sure.
I thought you said Vincent.
One was Vincent.
But the other one, then she kept saying Benson.
I definitely heard Benson.
So maybe one was Vincent, one was Benson?
I think one was Vincent, because that made me laugh.
Because I think there was four. I think there was four. But anyway, she kidnaps Forky, but Woody escapes and finds Bo Peep's living in the wild. Like her and her gang of ownerless toys
lost
toys roam the town and just find random kids who will play with them. And
to moderate success usually.
Yeah, and that's just, they're kind of nomad toys. They don't have one owner. They just kind of go around and see what kids they can make happy, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, their life purpose is primarily just bringing enjoyment to any child. Does not matter.
Doesn't matter.
Rather than definitely being taken home or something.
Yeah. And Bo Peep helps Woody infiltrate the antique store, which she knows inside out because she used to, quote unquote, live there, to rescue Forky and get back to Bonnie before the caravan, the father drives away the RV, the caravan.
And we should also say that Gabby has quite firm power and control in this.
Yeah, she's like the mafia boss of the antique store.
She's the strong man of the antique store.
Yeah, and then they with the help of Ducky and Bunny to Carnival Toys,
Key and Peele,
voiced by Key and Peele, and Duke Kaboom, voiced by Keanu Reeves, who's like this Canadian Evel Knievel stunt man motorbike toy.
Kind of, he can't get over his lost relationship with his owner.
Yeah, I used to have a kid.
And he's just, it's like taking something like 20 years and he's just not over it.
Yeah. And they infiltrate the antique store and help rescue Forky, get back to the RV in time so they can all leave. Yeah, and Woody willingly sacrifices his voice box so that Gabby can have a chance to...
Yeah.
I actually like that as well. Gabby becomes a sort of sympathetic character because all she wants is to make kids... Which this movie's more about, like, what's the purpose of the toy? How do you make kids happy? And Woody's purpose has been fulfilled. He made Andy happy. He made Bonnie happy, but now Bonnie has Forky and other toys, and he's like, you know, my purpose is to get Forky back, and then that's it. Like, you know, I don't... And he gives Jesse his sheriff's badge, and he's like, you're Bonnie's protector now, and Forky and Buzz and all that, and he says goodbye, and he goes off to live the nomad life with Bo Peep.
Yep. Because then at least he can still keep some kids happy.
Yeah, which one is, I think, is really cool, and also ties into that standalone adventure that we've been talking about, how, yes, the third movie ties everything together really well, but this kind of expands it a little more, where it's like Woody's journey, I think, would have been fine to end in the third movie, but here it's like adding a little bit of...
More character development.
Yeah, a little bit of a spice on top or something, you know, like he's got a little bit more to do.
Yeah.
And he kind of goes off on another journey.
There were still snakes in his boot.
And then there's some sort of footage during the credits in which we see Bo Peep, Woody, and some of the other toys sort of rigging carnival games.
They go with this traveling carnival so they can make kids in every town happy, and they rig the carnival game so that every kid who comes to play gets to bring a toy.
Yeah.
So they're giving homes to all these lost toys, so that's cool.
Which is in Woody's character too, selflessness.
Very wholesome.
One thing I want to talk about is, like, if this is the last one, if the third one was the last one, perfect. That's what everyone thought. If this one's the last one, fine. Just like maybe not as tied up and rounded off as the third one, but still, if this is the last Toy Story, that's fine. But at the end of it, I was kind of like, I would like to see more adventures. You know,
I feel like it's taking us in a direction where there is something we want to see. We want to see more of the lost toys.
Yeah, especially because, as I was alluding to before, Buzz doesn't get a lot to do in the movie. And that, in the way the plot progresses, and because it's really about Woody's journey as a character, that's not a terrible thing, but it would be nice for him to be a bit more involved. Because even in the first three movies, even though Woody's always sort of been the main character, Buzz
been a sidekick.
Buzz gets a lot to do, even when he's like in Star Command mode or when he's like trapped or whatever. Like, Buzz is always like, there's always Buzz moments as well. Whereas this movie's very much Woody, and Buzz, is much more of a smaller character. And Jesse spends 95%, All the toys spend 95% of the movie stuck in the RV.
Yeah,
trying to prevent it from leaving.
This is definitely Woody's film.
Yeah.
This whole film is basically just a way for Woody to essentially come to like his self-realization that he's no longer the toy. He's like, now he's just kind of, it's retirement mode.
Yeah.
I feel like if this was any darker, they could have made it a Logan kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
I never thought of that.
This is like Woody's last
Logan.
adventure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it was realistically Woody's story, but they couldn't call it that because there's a porn film with the same name already.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, they should have just called it Woody, like Logan.
Yeah.
They should just call it Woody.
Like, as for a subtitle, I would have called it Toy Story, The Search for Bo Peep. And they could have had like Star Trek references with like Buzz Lightyear and stuff.
I remember when Toy Story 3 came out and Bo Peep wasn't in it, and then there were rumors that they were going to make a movie as like The Search for Bo Peep, and then Toy Story 4, the first teaser came out, and that didn't really allude to that at all. And I was like, what happened to that idea? But then that idea ended up being in this movie as well. So it seems like all Pixar movies, they have so many ideas, and they kind of leaks, and you hear about it, and they go through so many incarnations, like
iterations.
Like that in Pixar, they'll like storyboard and start animating the entire movie, and then realize it's not working and just start again. And that's why Pixar movies take a long time, but they're always good when they come out, because they've kind of gone over every version of the story. They've done all the draft animations, what do you call it, the scratch animations.
Yeah.
They've done like the entire movie in that mode with the temp voices and the temp music, and they've done that so many times, and it's like,
but
no,
it's a good movie before it's even been animated.
It's not working, scrap it until they get to the best version. So not many movies do that, where they're made several times until they get the best one.
Some movies are made from one script.
Yeah, and they're not very good.
There's no subverting expectations in this film.
Yeah.
One thing I did like about Buzz, staying on Buzz for a minute, was I liked the bit where he's sort of, I guess he's listening to the other toys. I think it was Woody. And I listened to your inner voice.
Yeah.
And he's hitting his buttons again and
that
again.
was funny, yeah.
And they're always sort of telling him like stuff that he doesn't want to be doing.
No, they tell him exactly.
They tell him something semi-unrelated, but vaguely related, but he extrapolates from that.
Yeah.
Like, there's one scene where he kind of wants to. I felt like he wanted to stay and help, and he's hitting the button, and it's like, get out of here. And he keeps hitting the button, expecting to hear "stay and help," you know, like, and he's like, but it doesn't happen. So he's like, all right.
The reason that's funny is because it's the exception. Whereas before that, every time he pushes the button, it tells him to do something that propels him forward to help Woody, which is funny because he doesn't realize that the inner voice Woody was talking about isn't his toy voice box. It was his conscience.
It doesn't quite understand thinking.
Yeah. Which is so funny. But yeah, like one of the best things about Pixar movies and is why they're cut above the rest is because like it's not just the textures and them graphics, it's like the little movements.
The actual animation.
Yeah, the really subtle, physicality and the little bits of movements and that. And it's why the movie's like so funny.
One particular scene?
Well, like all scenes,
with
but
Duke Caboom.
We'll get there.
Yeah, like there's so many good like little bits and pieces that had me like roaring with laughter that I think most people would just not even see.
It's like we said, it's at that moment with the Forky's hand coming in.
Yeah.
And it's just so awkward. It's just an awkward placement, and it's like something you'd see in real life. It's also like awkward.
It's also because the voice acting's so good, and they get all the little stutters and the little ums and ahs and the little funny noises, and like that's another reason. But yeah, just the subtleties of the movements and the facial expressions and the way the ventriloquist dummies kind of move with the stiff arms and legs.
Yeah.
And the way Forky's pipe cleaner arms kind of shuffle up and down, and like his little popsicle stick legs waddle, Like, it's so funny.
I like the thing about the ventriloquist dummies is that they don't talk at all. Because they're the toys that talk the most in real life with their own.
Well, they don't have a voice unless their own I give them.
Because it's like, it's sort of the dynamic of like, all the other toys don't really talk.
Yeah.
But the ventriloquist dummies do talk with their owners, like, as talking for them. So they're silent the entire movie.
Yeah. They do make noises, though, when they get hit and they go, yeah. But they're so scary, man.
Yeah, like, a bit edgy for a child's film.
This movie, like, gets into, like, some dark.
Don't you think it's a bit edgy for a kid's film?
Some of that in number one, too.
No, all the Toy Story movies has gotten, like, but this is, like, some scary shit.
See, remember not long ago we were talking about how they don't make children's films edgy enough anymore? Yeah. I feel like this is a step in the correct direction.
Yeah, this one, but again, that's Pixar. Like, they're always kind of,
something for everyone.
Yeah.
The cat was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, the dragon, as they refer to it.
Yeah, them graphics, man.
Yeah, the cat was really good.
But see, like we were talking, like Callum and I were talking last night when we saw the movie, and I was like, the reason the first movie is still the best one, but like, yes, the animation is very primitive by today's standards, but like, that's not the point. Like, Pixar, the way Pixar...
Callum's shaking his head in the studio.
Callum has no opinion to give here.
Number 2's best one.
Fuck off. No way. No way. Toy Story 1 will always be the best one, no matter what.
Look, James, you're entitled to be wrong, and we're allowing that on the show because I'm here.
No. The thing about art is it's subjective. I personally think 4 is the best movie.
But see,
you're dumb, Cal.
This is what I was getting to, is that 1, is that just because this is the most fresh in your mind? And 2,
I think people think 1's the best because they wear rose-tinted glasses.
No,
James does.
Okay, so this is the exact point I was getting to.
You see the rose tint on your glasses, now wipe it off.
This is the point I was getting to. Is that it's not just about the animation, because I know you were like freaking out about the graphics, Callum, but
I'm not freaking out.
It's okay. Nice. So now we're getting off track here. But what was my original point before?
We're talking about why Toy Story 1 was the best.
Before I was deliberately ignoring Alan because he always derails the show, and now I can't even remember what my initial point was.
Because you don't have any stands. It's true.
I had
a the best film.
In no universe is that the best film. No way.
Anyway, so why is number 1 the greatest film?
It's like the Star Wars argument we always talk about. People think Star Wars is good because of the lasers and the lightsabers and the flippy force powers. But the reason Star Wars is actually good, and the reason it's stuck around for so long, and the reason it's so important to people, is because of the story and the characters. Is because of the spirit. And it's the same with the original Toy Story.
That's exactly why number 2's better, because it's got more story and character development.
It expands upon the story and character from the first movie, but the first movie is still better.
Because I think it touches more on what the next few movies kind of relate to, is the kids not wanting them anymore / not needing them
that's what sequels do. They expand upon what the original set up.
James, you could be wrong.
So
you could be wrong in your own time.
My point was, the graphics don't matter. It's the ultimately it comes down to the story and the characters. And what Pixar does, as we've been talking about, better than any other studio and better than a lot of live action filmmakers, is that story and that character, and is the way they animate things to bring forward that character. So the animation, you watch the original Toy Story, yes, the textures are very flat and, it's not particularly detailed.
But we do also have to keep in mind when it was made.
There's that.
Very impressive for the time.
Exactly. It's extremely impressive for the time. But not only that, it's also extremely impressive just in terms of the movement, the way the characters move, the subtleties of the performances of the CG models, the way the camera moves, the way things are framed, the action, the adventure, the way the story unfolds, the editing,
I'm sure when it was released, there was nothing else like it.
No, but even now, looking back 25 years on, yes, the animation, you could do that movie on your home computer in no time, but that's not the point. No one can make a Pixar movie like Pixar does. No one can make you care and love these characters so much because they're Pixar. They're a cut above the rest. And that's why when you look back at Toy Story 1, it doesn't matter that there was technical limitations. It's the way they make the movie. It's the way they tell the story. It's the characters. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I still think 4's better.
I think we need... No, we've already watched 1. We need to watch 1 to 3 in a marathon.
Yeah, that's also true.
Subjectively, number 2.
No proof. Like, 1 is the best.
No, it's not.
No. Again,
See, you just said no one else makes people love characters so much. I mean, there is a Shrek fest going on right now. People say Shrek is love, Shrek is life, and that's by DreamWorks.
That's a meme.
No, I don't care.
Also, the first Shrek was the first Shrek was good.
We should also point out.
Like the first Shrek, is strong enough to carry.
I'm pretty sure just Shrek is a meme anyway now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Point out that all art is subjective. You've heard a lot of people think The Last Jedi is the best Star Wars film. A lot of people think that movie is the best Star Wars film.
Yeah,
they're allowed to have that opinion. We don't agree.
Yeah.
But
no, I'm not saying Callum can think whatever he wants to think.
No, my point is...
I'm right.
My point is...
The first one will always be the best.
There's a big difference between us complaining about the Star Wars and the state of the Toy Story franchise.
This is also like I think what Callum's sort of getting to is like all the movies are good. All the Toy Story movies are good.
Toy Story 4 doesn't trash Toy Story 1.
No. Yeah.
So it's a little different for us to compare. We shouldn't be comparing Toy Story to Star Wars.
Yeah, but
Pixar still love Toy Story, whereas Disney do not love Star Wars.
No, exactly, yeah. And also, like I was saying at the start of the show, how Pixar, I think, understands or is self-aware, like is aware of the fandom, like is aware of of us, like
grown men wanting to go see a children's film.
Grown-ass, nerdy-ass men, like arguing about it. There's some sort of awareness about that, whereas Disney is just like, they've got blinders on. They're just like, this is what our Star Wars is. This is what Star Wars has always been. It's the 1984ing Star Wars. Like, this is what Star Wars has always been.
Yeah.
We've always been at war with Oceania.
That's a good analogy.
Like,
that's just like, we've always been at war with Eurasia.
Like, Lando always looked like this.
He always, Han always shot first. Greedo always shot first.
It's just like, like there's...
But yeah, my point is, like I can enjoy 4 and think it's good.
No, yeah,
but it's a bit different.
4 is definitely good, and that's fine. But yeah, no, like my point was like Pixar makes great movies. The animation is just a secondary almost thing. Like we were.
It's a good movie first.
Yeah. And then
it's a well animated movie second.
Exactly. And that, I guess that ties into another thing of like animation as a legitimate filmmaking art form. Like,
please only do it if you're good.
Not just that. Like, when people think of movies, they think of animated films and they think of live action films.
Yeah.
Whereas they should be thought of as in one category,
like a spectrum,
and then animation is a subgenre.
Yeah.
Because if a film's animated, just because it's animated doesn't make it lesser than a live action film.
That's true.
Like the storytelling is good.
What I sort of meant by that really is like we see a lot of really bad CG. Like, CG is good, and animated films are a separate thing, but they also try to use it in,
But you can if the story was good and the characters were good, but the graphics weren't great, that's fine.
I'm not talking about not great. I'm talking about abominable.
Well, abominable. But if the story and characters aren't that good and the animation's not good, then you've got nothing. But if the animation's really good, but the story and characters aren't that good, then who cares about the animation, It's the same with live action movies. If the cinematography's crap, but the story and characters are cool, it's like, oh, okay. But if the movie looks really cool, but the story and characters are shit, then it's like, oh, well, the cinematography, the movie looked nice, who cares? Do you know what I mean?
Or in a case you have Blade Runner and we're still not sure how we feel.
Still not sure. We have to do a retrospective. We have to do a re-review.
Where it's like the direction in
not the original. Good. We're talking
about 2049. Yeah.
The direction's really good. The cinematography's really good, but I'm still not sure.
Not sure about it. Yeah, but like I think it's also like depends on how long I want to rant on it. But the whole Disney live action remake bullshit.
Oh,
where it's like,
well, look, we were sitting in the cinema when the Lion King trailer came on, and I just immediately, I'm like, pass.
Yeah,
and then James goes, hard pass.
Yeah,
I'm like, no.
I was talking to Jake.
Maybe on Stan.
Jake,
not even.
Jake saw the movie with us.
Are they going to show all the shit piles that the animals create then? If it's like the live
if it's realistic, yeah.
Because I think I leant over and I was whispering to Jake about it, and I'm like, it shouldn't be animated like this.
That's the thing.
And I'm like, and Jake's like, the animation's fine. I'm like, yeah, but no, but it shouldn't be animated like this. Keep it hand drawn.
Yeah. So here's the problem: is they're quote unquote live action remakes, but they're in this case 100% CGI.
But looking at a photorealistic meerkat talking is weird.
No, but so if it's 100% CGI, or in like Jungle Book's case, like 95% CGI, or in Aladdin's case, 80% CGI, then it's technically an animated movie, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you're making a quote-unquote live-action remake of an animated movie with a digital, like a 3D version of animation instead of 2D. So there's that aspect.
Would you prefer it, Who Framed Roger Rabbit situation where it's a live action and they draw Simba onto the frames?
They just film the environment and then have the... That would be cool. That would be cool, actually. Yeah.
Happy on Netflix does that really well with 3D animation.
Yeah, that's true, it does.
But like in this case, specifically with The Lion King, it's sort of weird because the style of the animation is photorealistic,
so then
set in a real
So what they mean by live action is it's 3D animation.
Exactly. So then there's that thing where it's like delegitimizing 2D animation as an art form, as a filmmaking technique, as a way of storytelling. They're delegitimizing their own movies, which are truly great movies and which everyone loves and remembers fondly. So they're doing that. Then on top of that, they're, like you said, they're like, because it's photorealistic,
it's uncanny valley.
Yeah, but it's like what? Where's the color? Where's the life of the original? Like it's all brown. The whole Lion King trailer was brown.
It was. It was flat. That's true to life, though.
Yeah, but it's like it's boring. So it's kind of like, what's the point?
This is my opinion. Obviously, take it with a grain of salt. But then why do it at all if you're going to have these animals animated?
And this is the problem.
Like, just there are companies there that can sort of make sure that the animals are looked after properly. Yeah. Just use a meerkat.
But I mean, this is the problem. Is like.
Companies don't want hand-drawn, though.
Exactly.
No, they want the big budget 3D CG.
If you're doing a live-action Lion King, why don't you just get the animals... They're looked after properly these days.
Yeah, well, that would be too hard because you couldn't physically
put a lion in there with other animals.
No, I'm talking about the lion. I'm talking about like you got a meerkat.
But you couldn't get the meerkats to act. They're not dogs. They can't really do any.
Just put some
string on its mouth.
Just peanut butter.
Peanut butter away.
But it
sounds like we're getting into some animal cruelty here. We'll just stop.
Disney's doing it purely for money. The Lion King is like the most highest grossing 2D animated movie of all time. 2D animation is no longer taken seriously at all, which is very sad. 3D animation has now taken over, which is fine. 3D animation is good, as we've been talking about with Pixar. So there's that aspect. Then it's just the money, the name, the brand recognition. So they're just purely doing it. And again, they're delegitimizing animation as a storytelling technique.
Yeah,
because they're like, well, that was the animated version. This is the live action version.
Yeah, you know what they should do?
But in fact, it's also animated because it's all CGI.
They should just, if they wanted to get to capitalize on The Lion King, for example, they should just do another remaster of The Lion King and just put it out at cinemas. 2D.
They did that.
Make that 4K.
Yeah, they did that 10 years ago. Yeah,
I honestly would not hesitate. Yeah. I would hesitate, but I would rule out going to see one of those old school Disney movies on the big screen.
They should re-release them all in chronological order. It would be 4K, great.
Sell it in a box set. I mean,
here's the thing that it all comes down to. Like a lot of sequels, like a lot of remakes that are coming out and reboots and whatever, it all comes down to the original was special for a reason and will remain special. The original Jungle Book, the original Lion King, the original Aladdin, those are great movies that people remember and will continue to love. The remakes, people have already forgotten about them.
Yeah.
The Aladdin came out, a few weeks ago?
You say that,
Who's talking about the Aladdin remake?
No, you say that, but what about the little kid who doesn't care about the 2D ones because 2D's not cool, but yet you got the live action ones and they're totally cool, man.
Yeah.
The kid needs a beating as well.
Yeah.
I feel like we're wildly off topic.
But we got into a good sort of animation Disney centric, so.
But we're running out of time. There's still Toy Story to go.
Can we bring it back to like a borderline topic then? So in the respect of the Toy Story world, when a child or human appears, the toys fall and just go back to their limp mode.
They go to sleep. But we're not sleep. Like they fake it.
Because it's about Vampire the Masquerade, similar thing. It's like you can't reveal to the children that you're a living being.
Okay, I'll accept that. But how did Forky know to not do it when he was initially
It's
created?
instinct.
He's not a toy initially. Well, he
Yeah,
doesn't
he's
believe.
trash.
He doesn't believe he's a toy.
Any inanimate object has to pretend that it's inanimate when people.
There are all kinds of deeply ingrained world-building lore which we're not privy to.
Yeah, well, like what we were talking about before, there's no established rules, so it's just kind of a vague kind of it's just magic kind of thing. But from what it seems like, it's definitely more of a reaction, like a knee-jerk reaction. Like a kid comes in and they immediately fall down. Then you can also, it seems, break out of that if you want. Like if someone's looking at Woody, he could definitely get up and freak them out.
Like, there's a few jokes about that specific topic in this movie with Key and Peele's character.
When they attack the old lady, where they're like...
two plush toys that are attached to each other. I forget the characters' names.
Ducky and Bunny.
Ducky and Bunny, and they have this fantasy about... like killing this old woman.
Yeah, it's not made clear, but I'm
when
sure
they follow her,
pretty much the best scene of the movie.
Oh man, so funny.
As they're explaining their plan.
It's funny because they stop Key and Peele from talking, and they're like, "Is this going somewhere?" They're like, "Let us finish," or whatever. And then it just keeps going.
It escalates.
Yeah. Just like the old lady sleeping, you just see them come over
like
the bed.
menacing eyes.
So good. So dark. But yeah, like there's no, I think, hard and fast rule about what toys can and can't do.
Moving on to Duke Kaboom. Should we talk about Keanu's character?
Yeah.
So inside the antique store, there's like a secret compartment area in which certain toys who still reside in the antique store can live free.
Sort of
away from
it's like a kind of seedy nightclub.
But I guess they live there free from the influence of Gabby Gabby.
I like there's that old toy robot, and he's like, "Bo, you got any batteries? I need some batteries."
Yeah, so
it's like, please.
So the one of the big characters in this area is Duke Kaboom, played by the breathtaking Keanu Reeves.
So good. He's like a Canadian Evel Knievel stuntman motorcycle riding.
And I think as we said before, he never quite got over his original owner.
Yeah. Did we remember, what was the name? Renoir?
Renoir? Something French Canadian.
Yeah.
I'll look it up.
So good.
But
and they need him to jump his stunt bike like from one antiques cabinet to another, so they can save Forky, who's locked in the other cabinet. And so they need to jump over so they can like put a zip line. But Duke is like always, he can never make it. Like he's always crashes. And so he has lost faith in himself.
But no one crashes like Duke Kaboom.
Yeah. So good. But the bit we wanted to talk about before, which Nathan I think alluded to when I was talking about the little details of the world, the physical comedy and the way things move. And I mentioned the voice acting, but I forgot the sound design. The little noises. There's a bit at the very end where they have to make this huge jump to like bring a tow line so they can get to the RV and before it leaves, and like Duke is like on the Ferris wheel.
Yep.
And he like drives up
and across,
rides up across it and jumps and does this huge jump, and he has to get in between a small hole
target
on like a neon sign with all these light bulbs. And he's like flying through the air. It's like all the fireworks start having behind him. It's like all this.
He goes across the moon.
Epic,
in that,
it's like
that ET kind of shot.
Yeah, he does this like T pose or whatever. He's like flying past the moon, and it's like all this epic music. And then he like just makes the hole, but his head smacks into the light bulb and just goes.
Yeah, so funny.
And he crashes, and it's the funniest thing
because it lasts half a second. If you blink, you'll miss it.
Yeah, but the noise of the light bulb just.
I haven't been able to find his name, but I'm pretty sure it was close to Renoir.
It was Renoir or Renard or something like that. But yeah, it was so funny. You just hear that pop of the light bulb and his head just smacked. And he's like, I did. He's
it's
like,
a real solid kind of sound.
Yeah, he's all twisted on the floor. So funny.
So good.
Like Pixar's always
so
good.
hot right now. So
yeah, but I mean,
that's real good.
Yeah, but like I was thinking of Duke Kaboom. Duke Kaboom, if voiced by someone else, I think would still be pretty funny.
Yeah,
like he's a good character. Like, and there's a lot of Canadian actors in Hollywood. So, but there's also
could have been Seth Rogen.
Yeah, Seth Rogen's Canadian. Ryan Reynolds is Canadian. Ryan Gosling, Baby Goose, is Canadian.
Is he? That could have been a good one.
But he has this weird, like, fake New York accent.
I don't know if I could see Seth Rogen doing a good Duke Kaboom. It would have been all, like...
Yeah, it would have been like... Oh, yeah, no, he could have pulled off, but it would have been very different.
It would have been a very different Duke
See,
Kaboom.
Keanu is so cool, and Duke is so cool.
Yeah, that's true.
It was just a commercial. It's not real. Also, like the bit where they find Bo Peep living in the park, and she's like, all the lost toys. They find kids who play in the park, and they let them play with them, and then the kids leave, and they go to new kids. And Woody finds her, and she introduces him to... I like how her sidekick is a little, like, Polly Pocket cop thing. Yeah. That was funny.
Oh, yeah. I like the little animations, like, that change on the character's face.
Yeah,
like the little glasses.
It's like Good Cop, Bad Cop from Lego Movie with the sunglasses switch, But I like all the Combat Carls come out, all the little action figures. And they're just, like, reporting. And then one of them go, like, they high-five each other, and then there's, like, the Arctic.
It's a real stiff movement too, which adds to
the animation is so like even
it's legit. That's
like even Duke Kaboom,
stiff, old school.
Yeah, because they've only got the 3 joints on the arm. It's like
just when the Combat Carl speaks in the third person, which makes it so much better.
So good, man. And he's voiced by Carl Weathers, which is even even better. But like there's like Arctic, there's like normal like camo, like jungle camo. Yeah. Then there's like a desert camo Combat Carl, and there's like Arctic camo. Combat Carl, and they're all high-fiving each other, and Arctic Combat Carl always gets left hanging, and he's so sad. And I don't know why, I just found it the funniest thing. I think it was because the animation is so good, and he's got that little hand that he can't obviously... he
can't open it.
It's always in the fist because it's for the accessories.
Yeah.
It's just like for the weapons accessories, and so he's always... And like they keep leaving him hanging like 3 times in the movie, and then there's the end credits stinger where Duke Kaboom finally high fives him, and I was like, yes, totally worth waiting in the cinema for. But yeah, so good. Have you guys haven't seen the Toy Story shorts that came out like a few years ago?
No,
I don't know.
They were really good, but the Combat Carl like was introduced in one of those, and there was like the 12-inch version, and then there was like the 6-inch version. See, this is the other thing I love about Toy Story. The toys are based on toys, obviously, that, you know, people grew up with or whatever, but it's also toys you would like to have. You know, like Woody and Buzz were toys I always wanted to have.
Kids can have them now.
And then they made the actual toys. But I think that's what's cool about like the toys in the movie. It's like they're toys that remind you of toys you had with the kid. And I think that's what's great about the Toy Story. All the Toy Story movies, they're about that feeling of like being a kid. They're not, you know, it's about the toys, but the toys represent this, you know, it's the spirit I was talking about before. It's like that childlike feeling, and like, and the themes it deals with aren't about the toys. It's about the kids, or it's about the people,
or it's about that money they're gonna make from the merch, boy.
Oh yeah, I'm buying a Duke Kaboom, man.
No, we're getting you a Gabby.
No, I don't want a Gabby. Like I haven't seen any Gabby toys. That's weird. They should sell those.
They should.
Really sinister ones with the broken
not
sell
the
them
voice box.
Sell them with the tea set, the little tea set.
Yeah, the tea set and the storybook. That would be cool. A little storybook thing. But what was I saying? Yeah, I want to do Kaboom little figure on his motorbike. But also, one thing I love about the first movie is because of the technical limitations, they had to sort of not stay away. They tried to limit human characters as much as possible.
Yeah.
So, like, you don't see a lot of facial animations. If you see people walking, it's usually arms or legs, or there's like a shadow, so you can't really see the detail. And that meant the focus was more on the toys. It was less about the kids. And so it was really a venture set in this miniature world where, you know, the house is made for humans, but the toys are small, and so they can use pencils, weapons, and whatever. As the technology gets better, you see humans more and more. And that's fine, and the movies have always still been good. But now we're at the point where the human animation is so good that you see people everywhere, and there's like scenes with humans all the time, and it sort of takes away from that small element where you feel like you're on the ground in the toys world.
Yeah.
You know, do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Because coming from that low ground area where the toys are running around, you've got their perspective.
Yeah.
And you'd ideally want to keep more of that. I think some of it is pretty important, particularly when you get to see Bonnie's reactions in her face.
Yeah.
That's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
But I do also get the part of, like, it's taking you back into that kind of human/overview perspective.
Yeah.
Rather than putting you down there where you really want to be,
like,
in this case.
It's kind of like with a lot of movies we talk about, but Star Wars is always the best example. The technical limitations led to more creative problem solving.
Yeah.
Whereas now, with CGI and stuff like that, they can do whatever they want, and so they do. And they don't really think about, how should we do this? How can we really craft this to the best possible way?
Yeah.
And, you know, like I said, Pixar does so well, and they're so good at crafting the story and the characters and the animation. But, yeah, because they can do that now, it takes away from that kind of small kind of...
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I mean?
Unfortunately, we're out of time for the live portion of the show. Podcast listeners are unaffected.
Yeah.
Alan will be leaving us for Car Talk, which is our
piss
next
off, Alan.
on 98.9.
You only come on this show to piss me off. See, people don't know the behind the scenes where Alan's always giving me shit, so he makes me sound like an arsehole every time the mics go
I'm
on.
an innocent man. I'm just trying to make this rough world.
Oh, I'm an innocent man.
Just trying to make his way in the world.
Like Jay.
Like Jay.
We should do an episode of Jay.
I can't stand Jay. If the listeners at home...
No, we won't. We won't actually get it.
We'll do an episode. We'll do a mini-sode on the ad with Jay. A crappy, terrible ad.
Okay. Podcast listeners unaffected. We'll be back after this.
Bo, 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 bo.
How now, brown cow?
What does the Foggy go? Bom, bo, 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 bo.
Yeah, bo, bo,
Bo,
bo.
bo, 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 bo,
I'm
bo,
a
bo.
monster.
Trash.
Trash.
What were we... Cells.
So,
What were we talking about?
how did you get cells from trash? We were
talking about Blade
We were
Runner.
talking about 2049 before. But yeah, that was a roller coaster of a review there. Alan trying to make me sound like the bad guy. But yeah, like, what were we talking about?
Well, we were talking about we ended up going on a tangent about animation in general, specifically with the focus on Disney's animation.
Good discussion, though.
Yeah.
I think we ended up bringing it back to Toy Story.
Yeah, look, I think that my final thoughts on Toy Story 4, I feel like the character arcs are handled in a way that is respectful to the franchise and the characters themselves.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like this is a really good example of, if you need to milk a franchise because the shareholders are telling you to, this is a really good example of how to do that while maintaining integrity.
Yeah, just there's always this argument of like art versus commerce in films. There's that compromise you always have to reach. Just because a movie is made almost purely to make money doesn't have to mean it has to be soulless and cash grabby and bad.
Yeah.
You can make like the Lego movie. The Lego movie, let's face it, was a cash grab. They were picking a popular brand, but because of Lord and Miller, it's just like they made something so great.
Did you hear they're making a Minecraft movie?
They're about 10 years too late.
Speaking of soulless cash grabbing,
they're making an Angry Bird, like a sequel to the Angry Birds movie,
which sold like 3 seats worldwide.
Wouldn't the first Angry Birds movie came out like 5 years too late? So the sequel to the Angry Birds movie is now just like, what's the point?
Studios behind the game of popular culture. Newsflash.
Yeah. Well, they've been talking about, the Monopoly movie and all that. It's like purely cash grab. But these movies don't...
the Monopoly movie could be interesting if they tackle it in the right way.
If they make
it could be like a real estate thriller.
Anti-capitalist, like...
it could involve
satire.
Murders on real estate.
Yeah. Like a Wall Street kind of biting satire.
That could be interesting.
See, like, these movies don't have to be bad. Yeah. But because there's this too many cooks in the kitchen kind of thing.
Most of them end up being pretty bad.
Yeah. It depends on who the filmmaker they get, and there's always the producer or the company, the studio, wanting to force decisions on the filmmaker to make it more palatable or more accessible, to make more money. But yeah, these movies don't have to be bad. They can be really good. It just depends on how you go about them.
And Toy Story
shows that. I think Toy Story, that's what, and Pixar is a good example of, like, except for the Cars movie. Well, actually, I haven't seen Monsters University or Finding Dory because I didn't really interested in them.
I kind of want to see Monsters U.
Maybe we should watch it for the show.
Finding Dory, I'm not interested.
It'd be interesting.
Monsters University, just the idea I'm very opposed to. So I think watching it and talking about it will be really interesting.
Especially because we all love the original.
Yeah. But, like, I think Pixar, like, with the Toy Story movies, it's like, when they have a good idea, then it's the time to...
Yeah, it's not... Yeah, Monsters U definitely seemed like a kind of...
cash grab.
It's been X amount of years since the last Monsters, Inc. movie. We need to capitalize further.
Yeah. Like
pull an idea out of a hat.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, Toy Story 4... Initially, the idea was like, oh, I don't know about this. 3 was a good ending. Maybe we shouldn't try to drag this out. But they did such a good job that, kind of paid off. And I think the way it ends, it's satisfying enough if we don't get any more. But
it leaves threads open.
Yeah, it leaves threads open. And I'm hoping if they do another one, that it focuses more on Buzz. Because Woody's arc is kind of finished. Look,
I kind of want Woody to be done now.
Yeah, and
I feel like he's in a pretty good place.
I don't know how Tom Hanks feels about the role and, what he agreed to. But, like, I feel like Woody, as a character, his arc's finished. And for him and Bo Peep to go off together and never be seen again, that would be fine. Now to have Buzz and Jesse and the rest of the gang have their adventures...
Buzz has to find what it means to fill Woody's shoes.
Yeah, exactly. Mate, that's exactly what the movie could be about. Buzz has to fill Woody's shoes as the new leader, the leader sort of thing.
The new sheriff in town.
Yeah.
No,
Jesse's now technically the sheriff.
It's like what it means that Woody's gone.
Yeah,
like the whole movie deals with the absence.
That's filling that hole and
the vaguely sexist overtones because he's very much a 50s toy, right? Buzz, he's got that sort of
no. Buzz
Woody's
is a modern
50s,
toy.
Yeah,
no, but I mean,
Woody's
he's very much like a sort of a military toy.
Yeah,
and his boss is now a woman. And
that would be funny actually.
And Buzz is just like I'm the boss.
I think Buzz is into the whole dom thing. Doesn't he have a thing for the little doll that kind of runs Bonnie's room?
I have no idea.
I'm pretty sure like there's a thing going on there. But anyway, and he likes Jessie as well. Like there was the whole thing between them. But that would be really interesting. Like filling the whole Woody left behind. The movie could be about that. And also, if Tom Hanks wants to return or whatever, or if they feel like they can't do a Toy Story without Woody and they need to have him there, he could come in at some point, and like give Buzz his ultimate blessing. But it's just dirt from him, like playing in the park with kids.
Yeah. And he washes it off or something.
But yeah, like that would be interesting. Like I think I would like to see another one after this. After 3, I was like, okay, we're done, stop. 4, I was like, there's no more, that's fine. But I would like to see another adventure after this, maybe 5, maybe even 6. Like maybe make it a sectology.
I wouldn't know that word.
I think it's fine.
Do what Star Wars couldn't and make a good sectology.
I think it's fine as long as they keep up, the strength of the series.
You have to keep the characters moving in terms of their growth. Like you don't want it to be stagnant.
Yeah, that's the thing.
You don't want to see a movie where no one grows.
That's the thing. Like Toy Story 3 ended with them getting a new kid and them saying with Bonnie. That should have been the end of it because then the story from then on would become stagnant and boring.
That's why
they did what they did in Toy Story 4.
And that's why the whole kind of dealing with Woody's absence is a good idea because it still allows for character growth, reflection.
Yeah, and they can stay in Bonnie's
it can be like more of a traditional Toy Story movie.
Yeah.
Again, like you were saying before, reduce the scope. Keep it from the toy's perspective. Don't have as many humans in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a toy goes missing and Buzz has to... It's basically like a retelling almost of the original, but Buzz has to fill that role.
But it would be also interesting, like with Toy Story 2 and Toy Story 3, where Andy gets older, like how do they deal with Bonnie getting older? Because Bonnie's still like 5.
Well, the parents could have another children.
Exactly.
And the baby wants to eat the toys. And so they have to,
it's like a monster movie, like a Godzilla movie.
It's like Cloverfield. Now, because the baby's not old enough to understand that toys shouldn't be running around, they can have the toys interacting with the baby because it doesn't know what's going on.
It's like,
that's a good point.
We
could see some baby toy interaction.
Buzz can ride Jesse can ride the baby. You know what I mean? Like,
that'd be great.
There can be some. Have you seen the game? It's a video game where, it's a 2-player game where someone plays the baby and someone plays the adult, and the baby.
And you have to keep it from killing itself.
Yeah.
There
could be a similar dynamic.
I mean, that's kind of what Woody was doing with Forky, but the stakes are higher because there's a human baby trying to kill himself.
Yeah, like maybe the baby gets out in the street. And all the toys, they're
like the baby.
Get the baby back inside. Get the baby back inside.
It's like Toy Story babysitter.
Yeah, and they have like the dinosaur on the radio. Like the parents are coming. The parents are coming. Get the baby back inside.
But then this calls into question how bad the parents are at their job, letting the toys. The toys they don't even know about.
I'm sure they could write a convincing.
Excuse.
Table.
Yeah. Oh man. Send us a check, but in a positive way this time.
Yeah.
Because we're just like spitballing ideas for a potential sequel instead of fixing your shitty movie.
That's good.
But Callum, we were talking just in between the live segment and this podcast segment, like we were talking about, the Disney quote-unquote live-action remakes. And we are talking about how because they're not really live action...
Yeah, it's kind of deceit.
Yeah, but it's... I think it ties into what we always talk about where CGI is now accepted. The general audience sees CGI and says, wow, that looks realistic. Yeah. That's live action. But it's not. No, it looks fake.
Especially with the Lion King movie. It doesn't look real.
I won't lie. The CGI lions in the Lion King trailer look good.
Yeah, but
they look like CGI. Yeah. And their weird little faces and eyes are creepy as hell.
No, there's a difference between something looking photorealistic and something being realistic.
Exactly.
You can still tell.
Yeah, and why make a live action remake when it's not live action?
Yeah,
it's just like we talked about the other day, where Nolan's films are appreciated because of the practical elements.
Yeah, so the whole thing about this is they're billing it as live action because they want to get a whole new generation of people in to see the film. But in reality, what they're doing is making an animated film. But the whole spiel is this is the Lion King with up-to-date technology. Exactly. And it's not 2D.
That's part of the Disney-fication of all properties they own, especially Star Wars.
Which is the modern Disney-fication.
Yeah, exactly. Where it's, like we were joking before, this is how Lando is now. This is how Star Wars has always been. It's like, no, this is the real version of Lion King, This is the real version of Aladdin, The old 2D version, that's whatever.
It's just 2D.
Yeah, I feel like there seems to be a feeling of these are what these movies were supposed to be.
Yeah.
We did them in 2D because that's all we could do at the time.
Revisionist history.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't listen to it. Go watch the originals.
No, exactly. Like the original 2D animated Disney movies, like I was saying before, they're not just remembered because they're well animated. They're remembered for the story and the characters and the music and the spirit.
And, we're all getting on in age in this studio. We're not young men anymore. But there's still magic in hand-drawn animation.
Oh, man. Like, Studio... Is it Ghibli or Ghibli?
I say Ghibli.
I say Ghibli personally, but it could be Ghibli. I have no idea.
Yeah, but like that's why people respond to those films, and they I guess anime in general still has a 2D, although there is 3D.
Some of them are moving into 3D, which I don't.
But in terms of like Western mainstream, the 2D is pretty much dead. There are still Western animated 2D movies. See,
well, I mean, Disney, if not too long ago we had Love, Death and Robots, that had some pretty good 2D.
Yeah, but those were weird shorts on Netflix. I'm talking about could you imagine Disney releasing a big budget mainstream 2D animated film?
I think the last one was about that
Princess,
frog.
Yeah, Princess and the Frog, which didn't do well, and so they were like, okay, 2D's dead, we don't want to do it anymore. But I mean, I have never seen that movie, but there has to be someone to keep that.
Do you remember the one with the fox? That was a really good one.
Oh, the Love, Death and Robots?
No, the Disney one. He was like
Fox
Robin
and the
Hood.
Hound? Oh, Robin Hood. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Wait till they remake that with a creepy CGI Uncanny Valley, and his little sharp teeth, and he's like...
I know that's random, but that was just like a blast in the past.
But yeah, like... it's like it's delegitimizing 2D animation as a legitimate art form and as a legitimate way of filmmaking and storytelling.
Just like the new Star Wars movies delegitimize the originals by completely erasing the character development.
Exactly.
That happened in the
subverting your
trilogy.
Expectations. Yeah, so, and like having characters literally say things like "kill the past."
It's because the new people of Disney.
Yeah.
I think they don't understand why the originals are so good, and that goes for their own products, not just ones they acquire, like Lucas.
Yeah.
Like Lucas Films.
Yeah, exactly. There's an apathy towards it, or a misunderstanding, or an ignorance.
Old, right? It's like away with the old things, in with the new mentality.
Which, if you want to do that, make original films.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
so where's Disney's like original live action films?
So did you not see Rogue One?
God.
Or Solo?
That's how Star Wars has always been. It's always looked like that.
Always grey, nothing but grey.
Nothing but grey. Just like Lion King was always brown.
Nothing but brown.
Like the original Lion King is so good, and like it's so colourful, and like it's so powerful, and to do this bullshit that they're doing now with the CGI brown, like boring and.
Like, what is it about CGI? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's always so brown.
It's
Do you know what I mean? Like, how many movies have we seen?
It ties into the whole gritty, realistic look, and it's also the way they color grade movies now is too flat and brown and dull.
That's why Zootopia stands out to me, because it's so
it's
colourful.
pops, yeah.
But it's like, how many movies have we seen where we're like, it's kind of just brown?
Even Toy Story 4, which we were talking about, is so photorealistic in its environment.
Colourful.
Had so great lighting and colour and, you know, like, it's just a shame. They're revisionist, it's Disney revisionism. Yeah. It's really sad.
So any other comments about Toy Story?
No, I think we got everything. There's a lot of great little moments that made me laugh. That just so subtle, just really
just little things.
Yeah, like Forky will go or something, you know, or like you know, like a character will like move their hand in such a small way, but because their joint isn't, there's no joint. It's just it'll just kind of move their whole. Or the way the ventriloquist dummies were like surveillance cameras, just with the spinning heads. Like I was laughing so hard at that. I feel like I was laughing. Yeah, I feel like I was laughing at a lot of things people didn't notice or didn't find funny. But yeah, it's such a good movie, and yeah, it lived up to the
high expectations.
3. Exactly. It, like the bar was high, it lived up to that, and it also fulfilled the economic quota while still maintaining its integrity.
Yeah, that's what you want.
Yeah.
We were talking about, you know, 2D animation before, and Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Good segue. Nice segue.
Evangelion is now on Netflix.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen it in years. And
I've never seen the whole series. I've only seen the movies, which are...
I've only read the...
Yeah. I need to watch it.
Yeah,
I've read the
I've been told.
So one thing I will say about this is the comics or manga are way easier to understand than the television adaptations in the movies.
Yeah.
Because what they did with the television adaptation was...
They're very cryptic.
They purposely inserted way more psychological elements and elements that kind of like obfuscation.
Yeah.
If that's the right word. Like they in the books are much more streamlined. It's this happens, he said this, he does this.
Yeah.
Where there's much more kind of...
It's like philosophical...
metaphysical stuff goes on TV show, just a filler.
Yeah.
So, and they added 2 more movies just full of this kind of metaphysical stuff because all the weebs were like, I like this stuff.
Yeah, like I only watch the movies and I was just like, there's something really interesting here, but it gets sidetracked by some of the weird...
So you shouldn't watch the movies first.
I made that mistake. I realize that now. A friend of mine kept telling me, watch the series. I'm like, I don't have time to watch the entire series. I'll just watch the movies.
So you actually know what happens. And then watch the TV show.
I haven't seen the movies.
I will make a controversial statement. I would like a Western... not a Western remake, a remake that's...
Like a Western retelling?
Like... Because I really like the idea of like the... Are they called angels?
Yes.
Yeah.
So they're like these big...
demonic kind of creatures.
They're bioorganic mecha robots, right? Is that correct?
So
they're like giant
Angel, are you talking about the bad guys or the good guys?
Oh, no, the bad guys are angels. Sorry.
Yeah, the bad guys are angels.
What are the good
essentially
guys
demons.
called?
The good guys are called ERVs?
EVAs.
EVAs.
Yeah.
Something like
mechs.
that.
They're just basically
They're just
mechs.
mechs.
Yeah.
Henceforth known as mechs.
But they're grown, right? They're like physical.
Sort of. They're not. I'm only up to episode 3.
So
4.
from what I
But
understand,
sorry, I'm going.
they're mostly mechs with some like biological interfacing.
Yeah.
So
They're-
they can kind of think.
Because to
They're
be a pilot,
they're sort of neurologically linked to a person.
to be a pilot, you have to be neurologically linked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So from
And
what
you
I
have to
understand,
have some sort of profile that fits, and that's
That's
why they
right.
have all these young
they're
people.
they're kind of alive, but
Yeah.
not really.
We're pissing off a lot of people right now who are like fully into the
That's
anime.
fine. Correct us.
Yeah, no.
Email, send us a message.
Tweet us at Tuesday Review AU. Send us a message at the Tuesday
Yeah.
Review Facebook page. We want to hear from you.
Yeah, that's it. As I was saying,
Just like we're just shooting in the dark here. We have no clue.
I've just started watching it,
Yeah.
and there's a few controversies I want to address about this. Now, companies have been trying to license this show for streaming for about a decade.
Yeah.
And the company that currently owns the rights to this, I believe, is a company called Kana. Like I think it's Kana or Kara, Khana or Khara.
Yeah.
And they're dicks. And if they basically just been not enough money, they've given the license to no one.
Yeah.
Netflix, of course, has a bottomless bank account, so that has been an issue.
Making it rain.
Making it rain. So they're the first company that's pretty much ever gotten the rights to stream this show, which is a big deal.
Yeah. Before this has just been
DVD
physical.
runs, yeah. But the issue is licensing. So they licensed the animation.
Because the show was originally 98.
1994.
Oh, wow.
It debuted in Japan.
Oh, wow. I didn't know it was that
Yeah,
old.
and so it's old. It's 25 years old.
Yeah.
And the one, by the way, the animation is spectacular.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if we said this on air, but we were talking about anime. I think Callum was talking about the other day when we were like, anime in the 80s and 90s was just better.
It is just better.
I just preferred it. That's
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
I don't gel with a lot of the new anime that I see now.
Yeah.
Rubs me the wrong way for various reasons.
Yeah.
I've read somewhere that this has also been touched up a little bit, remastered a little bit. So
Yeah,
some
you said
things are
Netflix
cleaner.
remastered it, yeah.
So some things are cleaner, and it looks spectacular. It's still 4:3, but that doesn't
No, but that's
yeah.
preserves the original.
aspect ratio.
Yeah.
Now the problem with the licensing for streaming, this is a unique issue because Japanese copyright laws are apparently
Very strict.
very strict and kind of different to what
Yeah.
we have here. So when they had to license it from Japan,
Yeah.
even worldwide, they had to go through Japan.
Yeah.
Now the ending song is a cover of "Fly Me to the Moon," done in a karaoke style.
Yeah.
So the issue here with the ending song, which has been removed for international
For the Netflix,
version,
yeah.
still in Japan, each ending is a different variation of the same song. By the same singer, but it's a different take.
In the original or in the new?
In the original.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm guessing they would have had to license each take.
Each version,
So,
yeah.
and understandably, that could get a little
Yeah.
pricey.
So-
So Netflix is like, you know what? We're not licensing 26
Yeah.
ending songs.
Yeah.
Because it's not worth it.
Yeah.
And
They
I know
replaced it
they replaced it with another, like their
Yeah.
own sort of in-house
instrumental version.
instrumental version.
Yeah.
And I'm aware that that's pissed off a lot of people.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I can't blame Netflix for not licensing 26 songs.
Yeah, look, ideally they could have and should have like gotten everything, but also, yeah, logistically it's a nightmare. Monetary wise, it's insane.
Especially since like
It's understandable,
It's
I guess,
understandable.
even though it's not ideal and not,
and Netflix is also sort of taking a risk here. Like they're obviously it's going to be.
they know it's going to be popular. When they announced, remember when they announced
Yeah.
it? I think it was a year ago. I think we talked about maybe on the old show. It was quite a while ago, and we were already speculating about what this means and so on.
But yeah, so they had to cut that out, and it's not great, but I can understand it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give them flack for it.
Yeah,
The other thing was it's a different dub.
yeah.
Now
the English
this
dub,
is the big issue people are having with it.
Yeah,
And having not seen the originals and just using the current English dub, I think the English dub's spectacular.
yeah. But if you had to compare it, you know,
I have nothing to compare.
Yeah,
I have
exactly.
nothing to compare to. However, the company that owns the original dub doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So they've had to basically, for some reason, you would have thought Netflix would be able to track down the company that owns the current dub or whatever, technically.
The original English dub.
Yeah, for some reason, they haven't been able to get the dub.
Yeah.
So they've had to create their own.
Yeah.
Now, apparently they've also used a different...
This also happens a lot with anime.
Yeah.
So it's not unusual.
Oh, you would have thought they would have been able to find it somewhere.
Yeah.
But they haven't. So they've also created their own script, which is closer to the Japanese audio track.
Yeah.
Which is, look, it's fair enough, I suppose.
Yeah.
The original dub wasn't as faithful.
Yeah.
But it's iconic amongst Western fans. Yes. But having, watched 3 episodes at this point with the English dub, I'm finding it very good. And they've touched up the animation and edited it. So the English dub, it seems natural. Like all the voices are matching the animation.
Yeah.
It all seems very fluid.
Yeah.
And all the audio is pretty good. So I'm happy with it.
But I think we were discussing this last night, and I said when they originally made these shows in, the 80s and 90s, they had no idea about DVD, Blu-ray, streaming, YouTube. There was no, when you had a song in your movie or a voice track or whatever, there was no thought of one day this will be available forever online, and like who's going to get the royalties for that? So when now that's starting to happen, there's all these problems with that, and it's unfortunately we have problems like this, or even worse, we have films that just will never be re-released because they can't license some of the tracks on it. But I'm hoping that in the future this will just stop happening, because now that the technology's gotten to this point, every time you make a show, every time you make a movie, every time you make a game, because this happens with games as well, like GTA had to remove songs because the license ran out. Like, I'm hoping now that people know, it's like any deals they'll make will be like, look, we might stream this forever.
In perpetuity.
Here's what you'll get. If you don't want to do that now...
It'll be some sort of royalty system.
Yeah, because I think it would be stupid for the GTA 6, when that comes out, for them to be like, look, we really want this song in the game, we'll do a 10-year contract, and then after that we'll renegotiate. And it's like, well, hang on a second, this game's going to be available online for the rest of all time, and it's going to be the biggest selling game. You can't do that. So I'm hoping, and there will be some people who were like, no, we're not going to license you that track at all, and that's unfortunate. But I'm hoping from now on, this will never happen again.
Probably not. And there's a case to be argued for situations like this where it's going to be in perpetuity. Yes, it's, you have to get paid for what you make and everything else. But in terms, especially like video games, you're introducing this music to a whole lot of, new generations. So it's not like they don't get anything out of it anyway.
It should also be noted, just going back onto the Neon Genesis track for a second, apparently there's been a lot more drama, not just with the dub, but apparently because they retranslated the Japanese.
Yeah.
I was just reading a report that said that allegedly since the original run up until current, there's been a relationship that was not overtly homosexual, but was later made canonically homosexual, that has been, Netflix rewrote it so it's platonic. So the people are attacking Netflix for quote-unquote queer erasure. And now apparently it's a lot more complicated because it wasn't overt in the manga.
Yeah.
But then later on in a later on issue, it became kind of canon. But people, since the anime was around, people, like shipping, people like, oh, I bet those two would be great together kind of mentality. And that actually became canon, I guess, because fans loved it so much.
Officially canon.
Yeah. And Netflix undid that because they felt... there's been no official response, but if you see what apparently Netflix did overall, was a big part of the Neon Genesis story it's like religion, the Judeo-Christian angels, gods in heaven, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So they reframed certain characters and certain relationships to fit that theme, which overall works fine, apart from a few instances where they, knowingly or not, undid character development from the original source materials.
Was it closer to the Japanese source? Like, is that relationship...
The problem was, in the original source, words like sentences like "I love you," whatever, aren't framed in that way. It was shipped by nerds. As harsh as that sounds.
But if we're keeping...
No. It is canon. It was later made canon.
No, but we're not talking about we're not talking about post.
Yeah, but Netflix has the knowledge that
these characters are in fact homosexual.
It did become canon, even though at the time it might not have
there were
been.
words like "I love you," which now have been translated by Netflix to say "I like you," like stuff like that. So reframing to be more in line with the religious overtones of the show.
Netflix might not have even done it on purpose. They might just have been trying to be as accurate as possible. So they're getting some
backlash for that now.
But Netflix is also a place where you could get away with... Netflix is the perfect place
It's
for
2019.
that.
If you want to have homosexual people in an anime, who cares?
Yeah, but especially Netflix, which is like...
They answer to no one.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of, I guess, disappointing. So but they might not have done it on purpose.
We'll see what happens. Because this is like a breaking story. So I'm hoping that Netflix will have an official response to this.
They could even fix it.
Yeah, they might. Someone said they can just do a quick quick
my
edit.
only thing would be is as James said, did they do this on purpose for queer erasure? So
I don't think. See that frames it in a very hostile perspective.
Or was it done because "I like you" is technically more accurate to the Japanese original?
No, I don't know
Western translation.
I honestly, my knowledge is just from the comics. I don't know a whole lot about the source material, and I certainly don't know Japanese. But my assumption.
Nani? But because the thing is, we're adapting. The only thing is, we're not adapting the manga. We're adapting the anime.
That's right. So apparently, the person who created the comics was like, this is a separate and more expansive story, but it is separate to the anime. The anime is its own thing. So the Neon Genesis anime does not take the comics into consideration. It's the same story. But it's not like, you know how
it's an adaptation. It's not a...
But it also tells the story in its own way.
Yeah.
So there are certain things that happen in the anime which don't happen in the comics and vice versa.
Yeah.
Because I can understand Netflix's point if they're just like, this is just a straight...
Yeah. But it's not
like
so that's the thing. In the anime, there are certain things that are framed in a homosexual way which have been removed.
Yeah, so that's not as cool.
Yeah, but again, it depends on the intention. So I would like to see Netflix's response. I'm not going to shoot down Netflix, who have traditionally been such an open and boundary pushing company.
We'll definitely keep listeners
if there's an
updated on this if we hear anything more.
What's interesting is because I had a friend who was like, you have to watch the show, you have to watch the show, you have to watch the show. And I was like, I don't have time for that, I'll just watch the movies. I know that's not the ideal version. Then I watched the movies and I went to him and I'm like, you were right, I'm so sorry. But now and I'm sure this has happened to a lot of people around the world. Now I have the opportunity to watch the show, but it's not the version he was telling me to watch, because it's technically not just the voices, but the translation is different.
I think there's only a couple of issues with the translation.
Yeah, but it's like, how different is it to the point where should I watch the originals because that's what he was recommending to me?
The nerds are only upset about a couple of things, so I think we're all right.
Are you sure only a couple of things? Because usually these things get pretty heated.
One thing I'll say is when I was reading that article, it ends with, but people have been upset about Neon Genesis since it came out.
Yeah, I mean...
So it's like, it's just another day in the Neon Genesis community.
If it's an issue, watch it with the Japanese audio and the English subs.
And also, read the comics, honestly.
Because the Japanese dub is the original from the 90s, correct?
Yes.
So that hasn't changed.
No.
If you're upset about all of this, the comics are the same they've ever been.
Yeah.
So you can get them for free on the net, just Google them.
And I'm sure there's a lot of weebs who would argue that you can only watch it in the Japanese with the subtitles.
You can also probably obtain the original with the original English dubs on the internet as well if you just do your research.
Yeah. And they'll release phically,
the
original with the original dub.
At the end of the day, as people who aren't as invested in this subculture of nerddom, I think I'm enjoying it. I think you'd probably enjoy just watching it on Netflix with the English dub.
I want to get back into it and get more out, because the movies are very quick and very cryptic, and they add in a lot of crap that's unnecessary. So I think watching the show will give me a better...
in a good way.
Yeah.
In a very good way.
But also, I think, we've been talking about how, that English dub's different and it's missing, and I was saying, that's something that's happened before. It's not a one-off thing. It happens a lot, especially with anime. But I guess it's good that you can... I mean, they probably won't re-release it anytime soon, but it's still physically available on DVD. And has it been released on Blu-ray?
I don't think so. I've certainly never seen it. But
I think it's on DVD. So the original English track exists,
and you can always pirate it.
Whereas there are some anime movies where it's so hard to track down the original dub from the 80s or 90s, and that the new dub, because they release it on Blu-ray, that happens with Studio Ghibli movies a lot, because they re-released it on Blu-ray and they changed the dub, and you can't find that original dub.
Oh, it is on Blu-ray, by the way.
Oh, see?
Oh,
so,
cool.
Yeah, so that's cool. So, I guess it's good that you can still technically find the original English dub version and purchase it legally and so on. Whereas there's a lot of movies where you can't do that anymore because they're out of print or they're just so widely rare and expensive or whatever. So, I guess it's it's not such a dire situation, if you want that original version. Because Netflix isn't just licensing Evangelion. Like, they're not just licensing Evangelion. They've bought the rights to show it forever, right?
I'm assuming it's worldwide. It's a worldwide license.
Does it say Netflix on the corner of?
No.
Okay, so that they might one day the license might expire. Because I thought, do you remember when we talked about this like ages and ages ago?
We thought it was an original.
And we thought, we knew they were buying the rights to the series, but we were thinking, they might also have the rights to make more. So, yeah, if they actually own the rights to show it forever, or are they just licensing it for a few years to, get some more people to watch their service?
It's unclear. I think that's another thing we'll have to sort of do some research on and keep our listeners updated.
Yeah, we'll see what happens there. Because there was that fourth movie that's been rumoured for 10 plus years or whatever.
Speaking of science fiction franchises which might or might not continue to live, the Wachowskis might return in some capacity for a Matrix reboot.
Yeah.
Which I don't feel good about.
Is this all just rumours? Because I haven't seen
Michael B. Jordan's behind it.
I haven't seen anything about this.
It's picking up speed. So I'm pretty sure Michael B. Jordan is set to star, with potentially one of the Wachowskis set to direct. Honestly, if I was the Wachowskis, I'd just leave it alone.
Yeah.
I'm happy for the Wachowskis to make money off it.
Yeah.
But just I feel like The Matrix is fine as you left it.
The Matrix is a difficult thing to get your head around in terms of it's such a rich world.
Yeah,
and it would be great to continue on with maybe a series
in a comic
or
book form.
I think it's still a rumor at this point.
Yeah, I think it's just all rumors at this point.
Well, God, I hope it doesn't come
I haven't
true.
heard any of it. There's been rumors since the third one came out that they're going to make a new one, that they're going to, Keanu's coming back, this, that, the other. So yeah, but it's just to continue it. It's such an interesting world. There's a lot they can play with there. But the sequels didn't do such a great job of continuing it in the first place.
No, that's right.
And,
It got a little weird in the end.
Yeah, Neo, you can bring Neo back, but it's or maybe they should do it with another character. But, yeah, at this point, with or without the Wachowskis, I don't really know how they can continue it on. Ideally, they should have done a second Animatrix.
Yeah.
Because you can get away with a lot.
Yeah.
And make a lot of cool, interesting new stories in the Matrix universe without having to drop $200 million on a big blockbuster, that, doesn't pay off or, that doesn't satisfy fans or, yeah, they definitely should have done something like that, or a comic series. I know they did the online video game, which sort of continued the stories and had the Wachowskis' blessing, and that's an interesting way to take.
I loved that game. I played it for a while. Did you remember our good friend at one point, Michael Schmidt?
Yeah.
Me and him played that at one point, and man, it was beautiful.
Yeah.
You could do
the story of that's really interesting.
Yeah, you could do the jumps.
Yeah.
You could.
Quick fact about that game: they had people they did events.
Oh yeah,
where members of the team developing that game would log on as Morpheus.
Yeah, and you'll progress
interact
the story.
with players and progress the actual narrative of the game.
See, that's what's interesting.
It was innovative.
Yeah, because the Matrix itself was about those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And, virtual reality and pushing the envelope. And then they made a game based on that sort of continued the story.
They played with that sort of
had
like
that kind of-
Morpheus logged on.
Yeah, it's also like a meta.
It was
meta
also
thing.
so cool because you could go into random apartments and you had to download data from a server
Yeah.
and you had to run before the agents got there.
Yeah, I think at this point, like I said, the Matrix world has so much to explore. A video game, a comic book, a new animated series or anthology or a live action anthology or a Netflix like live action series, I think would be better than a new movie trilogy.
Yeah, I agree, definitely.
Yeah.
If you do a movie trilogy with or without the Wachowskis, I don't know how that's going to turn out. It might turn into a Force Awakens situation.
Michael B. Jordan is the next one.
Yeah, they might try to dumb it down. They might try to clean, make it more accessible, more PG.
No.
So, and like we always talk about, CGI now is so pervasive and so the technology has come so far since the last Matrix movie that they will probably even the
it'll only be green screen.
even the Matrix sequels overuse CGI, and those were in the earlier days of CGI. So
I like the Netflix idea because the Wachowskis also have somewhat of a relationship with Netflix.
Well, yeah, they made Sense8, which I really liked, and
one day I'll suffer through it.
I don't know. I
got put off a little bit in the first episode.
I really
it was a
liked
little bit
it.
confronting.
I really liked it, but I don't know if you would like it.
It got real tranny sex real fast.
I was down for that, man. If you're not down for that in the first episode, you won't be down for that in the later episodes.
No. I'm willing to give it another go. I just remember being all like, wow, that was quick.
I'm watching this in my lounge room. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, it's not one to watch with the parents if they're not down for that as well.
But they already have a relationship with Netflix.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So potentially that could work out. Also, like it'd also be interesting if this does ever come to fruition. Like, how much do the Wachowskis have a quote unquote ownership of the franchise?
Probably not a lot.
I'm not talking legally. I'm talking about in the public eye. Like, if there was a Matrix movie without the Wachowskis,
would that affect their reputation?
Would people go like, you can't do it without the Wachowskis?
No, they wouldn't.
Like, but if you do it, but you do with it the Wachowskis, and it's kind of like, well, they also did the sequels, and they also did Jupiter Ascending.
That's what I was
and it's kind of like,
that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a good film.
Yeah, they don't have the mark of quality. It's kind of the George Lucas. It's like George Lucas was
lightning in the bottle one time.
Yeah, exactly.
Denis.
Yeah, George Lucas. No, but then 2049, as we just discussed earlier. So
I don't know how I feel.
I don't know how I feel. Fingers crossed for Dune. But it's like, yeah, George Lucas is like, no, he's the creator, he knows what's good, and then he's like, no, he didn't know anything. So,
not at all.
and then we got J.J. Abrams, we got the new people, we got Rian Johnson. It's like, oh no, they didn't know either, So I think Matrix will be very tough to,
especially
with or without the Wachowskis,
because it's such an esoteric franchise.
Yeah, you need someone who understands it.
Like, that's the thing. Like, you need the Matrix is very much a coded, more coded than, pun not intended, more coded than most science fiction franchises.
That's the thing.
So, the Wachowskis understand it intimately, but if you get Rian Johnson, he's not necessarily going to care about all the layers of meaning.
It's hard enough to get the practical effects and the action and the stunts and the cinematography and the style right. That's an extremely
hard ask.
Yeah. On top of that, then you got the philosophical, metaphysical.
It would have to at least be written by the Wachowskis.
I would maybe they write the script, then get a Nolan-esque director to come in and sort of maybe rewrite the script a little bit and get in all the action and stunts and maybe get the John Wick guys, because they were the stuntmen they were a Keanu stuntmen on the Matrix movie, so they have at least that internal, that inside knowledge.
Yeah.
Plus they make good action movies. Plus Chad Stahelski, who makes the John Wick 2 and 3, I think he understands world building a lot.
Yeah,
so.
And they get along with Keanu.
Exactly. So
if he could have a cameo in it.
And also, this also brings up the question of, can you do the Matrix without Keanu?
I think you can.
I think
as long as the script is right.
Yeah. I see. One of the reasons I thought the Matrix Online was really interesting because it was about Morpheus trying to get. I mean, it changed over time, but originally it was about Morpheus. After the third Matrix movie, and Neo sacrifices himself to the machines to save Zion. Morpheus becomes like a terrorist, and he like breaks away from Zion and becomes like a separatist like he sets up a separatist because he doesn't believe the machines are gonna stay true to the truth,
something like that. Yeah,
and then he sort of he tries to get Neo's body back from the machines, and like
I missed that game.
I think that's really interesting. And the Wachowskis, I don't think they wrote it, but they kind of gave their blessing.
Yeah. And it's a shame.
Can we have a movie about that?
So
it's a
exactly.
Shame,
so like that would be interesting, especially because I don't want to speak for Lawrence Fishburne, but I feel like he would be down for that shit. Like he would love that.
Yeah.
He would be like, yes.
Any movie that makes him look like a hero in the Matrix universe.
Just not that, but he loves that shit. Like he loves that nerdy shit. Like he's so on board for that. So like,
it's such a shame what happened to that game as well, because if I remember correctly, it got purchased by someone else. Who was it? Sony Online.
Online games, they don't make any money.
No, and what happened was
Sony
Online closed it down, the excuse being the code was a mess. They won't release it to anyone.
The code for a Matrix game was a mess.
Yeah. Now, I just want to say...
Irony?
It's unfair. This happens a lot in the MMO industry, is that a game will be closed down for good.
Yeah.
And all the people who loved it, they just hang out to dry. So they won't release the server technology or any like that, the tech behind it, so people can start up their own communities or whatever. They won't do it.
That's
some games actually do, like Rift Online. Apparently, when they close down, they're going to release the code to the masses.
Theoretically, you could reverse engineer it, but that would take...
No, it has been reverse engineered, and there are servers you can play on it.
Okay.
But it's not the same. You just get to run around the world. You can't do missions and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway, before we run out of time, one thing we wanted to talk about on the show was the recent drama with DC Comics. So in the early 80s to late 90s, I can't remember what period it was started, there was a label called Vertigo.
Mid 80s maybe, yeah.
So essentially what happened was, because DC Comics, like Marvel Comics, was bound by the code, the comic book code.
Yeah.
They couldn't you couldn't just release an adult-oriented comic book and say DC presents Preacher, DC presents Sandman, because they wouldn't pass the comic book's code, which is the little symbol you would see on the front covers, which would let your parents know
the G rating. Yeah,
it's like a rating.
It's like, this is a comic book, don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's like it let your parents know that there's not going to be no gratuitous violence or sex or swearing in the comic books. So what happened was DC was like, you know what, we're going to make another label without the DC branding.
Yeah.
And we're going to call it Vertigo. It's still DC Comics.
Yeah.
But it's not.
It's like a separate.
It's not marketing.
It's its own entity.
Yeah, in terms of marketing, it's not related to DC Comics. So if you walked into a comic book shop, you would see usually that have their own Vertigo section.
Yeah, it's in its own section.
Usually next to the DC section.
Yeah.
But essentially what's happened is, for some reason that hasn't really been made all that public, I can assume that it's just marketing related, a branding issue. They've decided to shut down is the wrong word. They've decided to merge Vertigo with the main DC brand and reincorporate it as DC Black.
Yeah.
So the problem we see with this is they claim, Jim Lee, who's the head publisher, I think, at DC Comics at the moment, claims that no comic books are going anywhere. No one is being harmed by this.
None of the current Vertigo series are being cancelled.
Yeah.
So they're just being merged into the Black label.
Yeah. So the problem I have with this is, does this mean that certain characters are now going to be able to be merged into the main DC universe? Like, for example, there was a bit of controversy when DC decided to put Watchmen in the actual DC universe with Superman and Batman.
Which is
terrible idea.
Bad choice, yeah.
Like, no, not in a million years. You leave Dr. Manhattan away from all these bad people.
Rorschach does not play well with others.
No, that's right. So I'm like, they've already done it. Like, let's not say hypotheticals. Are they going to put... I mean, Sandman's been in DC for a long time.
And they did with Constantine.
See, in the past, whenever they had merging with Vertigo characters and DC characters, it did not affect the main DC comics. It was only in the Vertigo's limited event only kind of what happens, kind of non-canon idea. So the Sandman, for example, Morpheus, the Sandman himself, meets Martian Manhunter. That's not canon. That just happens in the Sandman. It doesn't happen in the Martian Manhunter's comics at all. So I'm worried now that these crossovers will be canon because they've already done it.
It definitely feels like a move to because they've still said we're going to make adult-oriented comics. It's just going to be under the Black label.
But that's not my concern.
But see, the problem is no one cares about the comic book code anymore.
Yeah, exactly. But the concern is because Vertigo had no DC branding and was its own sort of separate entity, even though it fell under the DC company. There was that level of autonomy and that level of we're our own thing. We make edgier, more interesting,
for mature readers,
more existential, more weird.
Look, I mean,
comics.
I said before the show, when we were talking about it.
Yeah.
When the original Sandman run happened, because there's a new Sandman run now in a new Sandman universe, but the original Sandman run was in the 90s, and it dealt with things like transsexual rights, identity, gender identity, violence, like a darker take on the 90s zeitgeist.
Yeah.
It explored the themes of the day that weren't necessarily getting pursued in movies
and stuff
in the mainstream. I don't know if they could get away with something like that in DC Black. Because, as you said to me before, Neil Gaiman has always been next level shit.
Yeah.
He's always been pushing the boundaries and exploring what's acceptable.
Yeah.
I don't know if someone like a young Neil Gaiman today would be able to make some of the comics he did in the 90s under Vertigo.
Yeah, exactly. Having a DC Black label and being we're going to make adult-oriented comics, it just feels like... Yeah, you'll get some more swearing and nudity, but will you get the weird... No,
that's the point I was trying... It's all... I'll be honest, I don't care about blood and violence and sex. Whatever. If Batman shoots a guy...
That's in all comic books. Like you said, there's no code. There's in all comic books now.
Yeah. So it's I don't think... We have to separate the idea of mature comics from violence and swearing. And
it's about what themes...
It's about the storytelling you employ. It's storytelling that's not for children or teens.
Yeah.
It's for adults who want to... representation, for example. It's for transsexual people who want to read about transsexual stories in a way that's true to life.
Yeah.
In the Sandman... In terms of the Sandman. You can't really do that in a universe where Superman and Batman are physically present.
For a second, I thought we were talking about Adam Sandler for a second. He's talking about the Sandman.
Oh, that's what he calls himself. No, but my point. Forget about the swearing and the violence.
Yeah.
We're talking about just the issues and the way these issues are framed. I don't know how well that's going to go over.
You can definitely explore those themes even in a Batman or Superman comic. There have been very dark kind of mainstream superhero comic books that deal with sort of adult-oriented themes. But yeah, in terms of actually making a sort of weird exploration of adult themes and mature themes, there's definitely a feeling of DC.
Because what they don't realize is that DC logo's on the cover now.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
So it's we're putting our name on this, so we can't. They can't say anything we wouldn't say, and we wouldn't say anything might offend people. Yeah.
I'm sure many an upset parent sent a letter to the Vertigo office.
Oh yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Vertigo don't care.
Vertigo gets the hate mail and DC stays squeaky clean.
I don't think Jim Lee wants a parent sending him a letter saying, how come my son or daughter is reading this dirty, awful comic?
Things have changed in the world of comic books since, 80s and 90s.
That's true.
But there are also still a lot of touchy subjects and a lot of mishandling of representation and themes and so on. So for DC to bring that in
to their main label,
they either have to have balls of steel and being we don't care what we release, or more likely they're going to be there'll be blood and violence and swearing, but we're not going to really...
The storytelling is going to get a lot less vibrant.
You're not going to get another Sandman.
There'll be no more Hellblazers. Thank you very much. See, it won't be Hellblazer. It'll be John Constantine's
Hellblazer.
Heckblazer. That's a good analogy. It won't be the unabashed, uncensored John Constantine.
Look,
it'll be John Constantine Heckblazer.
Because there's Marvel, and then there's the
Marvel Knights,
Max, and there's Marvel Knights, and there's the Max comic books. But those dealt with really dark and twisted and weird stuff. But that was much more of a... This is Marvel, the dark version.
Yeah. And they never dealt with things like Vertigo dealt either.
Yeah, but Vertigo, because it was a separate entity, it was kind of they're doing their own weird thing.
Yeah.
And DC's doing their mainstream superhero stuff with some dark stuff on top of that. So Vertigo coming under DC and becoming Black Label feels more like Marvel Knights or Marvel Max.
Yeah, I'm just worried that we're not going to see these other stories now. It's just going to be superhero stories.
Yeah.
Because I know they've already done like a Batman Black DC Black one. I'm like, I'm sure there was some Vertigo comics that had Batman, but if most of the important Vertigo comics...
See, was there though?
There must have been
like legally they could do it, but I don't know if they ever did. I know
they had the Vertigo annuals, which had little shorts in them.
Yeah,
but most of the Vertigo comics,
because Vertigo was always felt separate.
It very much was.
If you didn't know anything about comics, you would say it's a different company. So there were the Vertigo
annuals, which had all kinds of little snippets in there. But most of the good Vertigo books were completely unrelated to DC Comics. They were just stories that writers could come to and pitch that they couldn't pitch for other labels.
Yeah.
Because, especially back then, Image wasn't as big, I don't think, in the early 90s.
Yeah.
Image wasn't even around in the early 90s, was it? Because
Jim Lee made
Image.
Started. Oh, did he?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he in one of the first comics was that awful...
That guy's
Cable, the one where it's actually Cable's evil twin. You know the one...
Brigade.
The really shit comic.
Brigade. Yeah. Man, we have to talk about that one time. I've got some of those.
Yeah,
you've got some of those. Yeah.
They're real bad.
Or so bad they're good.
Rob Liefeld. Anyway, so we'll see what happens with that. I don't feel good about it. I think it was a step back.
Because they're also doing like DC Kids. So it's like they have DC Kids, but DC Black and normal DC. So it's like they're definitely pulling everything under their umbrella and saying
they're also separating things into age groups, which I don't like.
Yeah.
The thing I like about comics is anyone can pick up a Marvel comic and it's fine.
Yeah.
Like I can pick up a DC Batman comic, and as an adult I can be like, I can read this, but I won't necessarily feel the same picking up a DC Kids comic.
Yeah.
No, I think I read something. I saw like a graphic about this actually today. And I saw the DC Kids, it actually had a suggested age bracket of something like 3 to 10.
Oh, well, fair. It's like pictures.
3 to 13.
Yeah.
No, there was like, it's legitimately aimed at like little kids up to like 13.
Yeah, that's what.
And then DC is aimed at 13 plus with no age no age bracket, and then DC Black is aimed at 17 plus.
Yeah. It's like, so there's the kids, which is like more probably pictures and colourful and simple.
The kids has a suggested maximum age.
Yeah, and then there's your normal DC, which is the same as comics have always been, and then there's a Black Label, which is like, the adult oriented stuff. But because it's now under the DC umbrella, it has that they have to answer to the name, the brand.
I'm sure, like we said, I'm sure this is not too many cooks, but it's probably a shareholder kind of problem.
Yeah,
like a board of directors issue.
It's definitely
why can't they leave Vertigo alone?
Because they streamline everything,
and then have another label for people who want to see Batman.
It's the Disneyfication, like we've been talking about. It's like. Disney owns all these companies. You have to know they own all these companies, and they have to be.
Yeah, so it's like this is them saying DC technically owns Vertigo.
Disney, Pixar, Disney, Star Wars. Disney, animation. Like there has to be. So it'll be instead of because they renamed it DC's Vertigo a year ago, I think, and then I guess that wasn't enough for them.
Yeah,
that should have been the furthest it went, but now so it's sad. We're a little apprehensive about it. And we'll see how it goes in the future. But it's possible we won't be getting any weird indie kind of stuff from it. And we'll have to go to
again, I think it's just because it has the DC right there.
Yeah.
Like, I just,
it takes,
it's just too, it puts real risk in the, it makes them put skin in the game where
accountability,
there was a distance.
Yeah, before they had anonymity, and now they have accountability.
Plausible deniability.
Yeah.
They don't have that anymore.
Exactly, yeah. It's like Vertigo's... they
don't have to Vertigo? Who's Vertigo?
They don't have to answer for the fucked up shit that's in Preacher.
Yeah, Vertigo's... Vertigo, whatever Vertigo says, we are not.
They do their own thing.
Yeah, to answer for that, and it does not express the views of the DC.
Yeah.
But now it's like DC Black. Oh yeah, we're DC. Like so we don't. We'll see how it goes.
I'm sure there'll be updates as the neckbeards, my fellow neckbeards. Rally on Twitter, attack, criticize DC Comics and Jim Lee.
Jim Lee's a talented guy, though.
I know. I love
He's a pretty cool guy.
I love Jim Lee, but I don't know if he's still like the head of DC. But
Oh, he's
I'm
one of
sure
the top.
he-
He's
I'm
one
high
of the
up
top
there.
guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, it's like we were saying before. If the people above Jim Lee are like, we need to streamline, he probably
Yeah.
didn't have much of a choice.
True. Yeah.
We are all out of time for tonight.
We're way out of time.
We always say we're out of time, but we usually run just about this long.
Look, if Matt's show wasn't finishing and we didn't have to go to dinner, like we could go for another hour or two. But after the Avengers episode, we're never doing that again. If we ever do that again, it will be split into 2 parts.
Thank you for listening. Please like and share the Tuesday Review Facebook page and follow us on Twitter at Tuesday Review AU. You can follow James on Instagram at Channel Drifter, where he just posts little updates
every
on
time I
every
watch
time
a
he watches a
movie.
movie, all the movies he watches.
Yeah, all the stuff we don't get to talk about on the show. I post a little opinion about it.
Hopefully some positive.
Mostly.
That's good.
Yeah.
You can find all of our previous episodes on your favorite podcasting apps. If you like video games, please check out Alan and Jake's show Sunrise
We
Arcade.
should just call it Jake's show from now on because Alan has no standing in the studio.
They talk all about video games, video game news and reviews. And you can also listen to Matty J's show Car Talk. That's TORQUE. You can find all previous episodes of those shows on your favorite podcasting apps as well. Make sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the Tuesday Review on iTunes. Thank you and adios, cousins.